Welcome back. With me to debate the forthcoming India-Pakistan talks is former Minister of Information and Broadcasting, the Congress Party's Manish Tiwari, and a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party's National Executive, Sheshadri Chari. Manish Tiwari, you have strongly argued that the NSA talks scheduled for Sunday and Monday should either be postponed or cancelled. Given that the rest of the country is eagerly awaiting these talks, why are you pushing for their cancellation?
The answer to that is very simple, Karan, and it rests on two strands. Number one, what is it that the government expects out of the NSA level talks with Pakistan? Do we want textiles from Pakistan? Do we want sugar from Pakistan? Do we want trade and transit rights from Pakistan? Do we want the most favored nation status? And the answer to all that is in the negative. What we really want from Pakistan is that terror should secede. And unfortunately, over the past couple of days, or rather ever since the UFA joint statement was signed, you've seen Pakistan upping the ante on terror. And number two, the Bharatiya Janata Party, when it was in the opposition, said that terror and talks cannot go hand in hand. And if you look at the UFA construct is all about talking about terror. So you see a complete reversal, a 180-degree somersault on the BJP and the government's position. A, que Pakistan, and B, que terror. So therefore, the germane question which arises is, what is it that we are going to achieve by talking to Pakistan at the level of the national security advisors, especially when Sartaaj Aziz stood up and rubbished the entire UFA process even before the ink had dried on the joint statement. And the manner in which the Pakistanis have reacted, after that, I'm getting a talk back in my earphone, but the manner in which the Pakistanis have reacted after the... My difficulty is that apparently the studio is also talking while I'm trying to speak. So let me conclude by saying that ever since the UFA joint statement was signed,
we seem to have a problem, Manish. Let me come back to you.
You'll have to tell your...
let me go to Mr. Chari. I'll come back to you. Hopefully in the interim, the problem that you're experiencing will be sorted out. Mr. Chari, let's take up the point made second by Manish Tiwari, that the BJP in its time was the first to criticize Congress when talks were held at a time when there was tension and firing. If I recall correctly, when Salman Khurshid hosted the Pakistani Prime Minister to lunch in Jaipur in 2013, Rajnath Singh claimed that Congress was feeding biryani at a time when Pakistanis were killing our soldiers. Now, RPN Singh, the Congress spokesperson, yesterday asked the following question: are these NSA level talks being held on the coffins of the innocent Indians who are dying due to Pakistani aggression? Is the BJP government guilty of double standards and hypocrisy over this issue of when you talk and when you don't?
No, I don't think there is any hypocrisy or double talk in this. Yes, we did protest when India wanted to talk to Pakistan at that time during the UPA government. But we should realize one thing, and I would appeal to my Congress friends also to see the realities of the situation. The ground realities in Islamabad and Delhi have changed. Delhi, of course, I don't have to explain to the congressmen how the Delhi situation has changed. We have a very strong, decisive leader in Delhi. And similarly, we are engaging with the political establishment in Islamabad. 1 year back, the political establishment in Islamabad was at the mercy of the army. Today, increasingly we are seeing, today in fact, as we are talking and discussing this subject, the army chief in Pakistan has gone and met the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He wants to know what is going to be the agenda. And
either he wants to know, or he wants to know, or he is probably telling the Prime Minister what the agenda should be. Quite possible. In any case, which here it means the army has its own agenda vis-a-vis India, and they are going to do this. And in fact, what India has told Pakistan very pointedly is, we can deal with your army, we can deal with your non-state actors, and we can deal with the political establishment in Islamabad also. So now the NSA is dealing with the NSA there, our army chief will deal with the army chief there, our area commanders will deal with their area commanders, and
if Pakistan indulges in kind of any mischief and say that this is not our doing and this is the doing of the non-state actors, we can tackle that also.
Well, just a moment. You're giving me a very lengthy explanation for why what you considered to be inappropriate and wrong when Congress did it is somehow miraculously acceptable because you're doing it. Leave that explanation aside. Let me pick up on one critical inconsistency. Just a year ago in August, the Prime Minister called off foreign talks because the Pakistan High Commissioner had spoken to Hurriyat, which many people considered a pretty harmless thing to do. After all, they've been doing it for 24 years. But suddenly Mr. Modi objected. Now, a year later, when 7 Indians at least have been killed by Pakistani firing across the LOC and the international border, over 10 have been injured, you're still determined to go ahead with talks. And that's much worse than talking to Hurriyat. So I put it to you, this is not just an inconsistency or a contradiction. This is a dramatic flip-flop.
No, you are again mixing things. Talking to Hurriyat is a different issue, and Pakistan's cross-border terrorism is a different issue, and what the Pakistani army or whatever they call it is doing is also a very different issue. We are tackling that issue on the borders effectively. Pakistan, just as we are telling them that they have done it, Pakistan has accused that India has violated 75 times in this period, which means we are retaliating 75 times.
So
we
you
have told Pakistan that if you fire a bullet, we will retaliate.
You don't think there's an inconsistency?
Whereas as far as Hurriyat is concerned, we have point blank told Pakistan that forget the past.
But this is the point I'm making. No, just a moment. Mr. Chari, the point I'm making is that talking to Hurriyat didn't cost lives, right? It didn't cost people in India being injured, yet you called off talks. When people are dying, when people are being injured, you're prepared to talk. To my mind, that's an inconsistency of some several magnitudes.
That is exactly what the Pakistani army wants. They want to call the shots, they want to be supreme in these things, and they want to tell the Indians that, look, if you talk to the political establishment over our head, we will not allow that to happen. That has to happen.
Explain what I consider your inconsistencies by simply arguing that in fact the situation has changed, therefore you have a stronger government here, you perhaps have a better government there, therefore the contradictions no longer apply. Let me go back to Manish Tiwari because we've got Manish back. Manish, you argued that no point and purpose is served talking to Pakistan at this time when there is terror, when there are Indians being killed and Indians being injured. But surely that's actually putting the logic the wrong way around. It's when there's terror, it's when there is tension, it's when there is violence that talks are most necessary, because after all, one makes peace with one's opponents and one's enemies, not with one's friends.
Well, Karan, before I answer that question off the bat, may I just rebut what Mr. Chari had said about the situation having changed in Pakistan? And I would like to completely disagree, because insofar as the India policy goes or the Afghanistan policy goes, the Pakistani defense establishment has a veto on those policies. In fact, the gentleman they are interlocuting with, including the National Security Advisor, has very little to say on that policy. And in fact, it was possibly on the prompting of the defense establishment that Mr. Sartaj Aziz, who was there in Ufa, 2 days later stood up and said that till the time Kashmir is not on the table, till the time our core concerns are not on the table, the talks cannot go ahead. So you had a rubbishing of the UFA process. And now coming to your question,
let me make a point. The argument you're making that the army calls the shots applied when your government spoke to the Pakistanis right through the 10 years you were in power. Even during that period, except after when Musharraf himself was in power, the army called the shots. So that argument could have always applied. It never stopped you from talking. Why should it stop the BJP?
Now, may I answer both your questions? In response to your first question, with regard to the fact that the talk should go ahead because you talk to your enemies, the fact remains that what are the NSAs really going to talk about? Because Pakistan has not ceased terror. In fact, they've upped the ante after the UFA process. So what is it that you're going to talk to them? In fact, if at all the talks happen, you're going to be talking at each other. And to answer your second question, if I rewind back from 2004 to 2014, Karan, you're absolutely correct that notwithstanding the opposition of the Bharatiya Janata Party, the UPA government persisted. They tried that we should try and talk to Pakistan, but frankly it did not yield any results. So therefore, if the argument the BJP wants to make is that because you talk to Pakistan, therefore you do not have a right to tell us to talk to Pakistan, is a complete non sequitur. Because look at the situation on the ground today. You've had a Fedayeen attack in Gurdaspur, you've had a militant arrested from Pakistan in Udhampur, you have continuous firing on the line of control and the international border, not only in the last 6 days, but ever since the BJP government has come into office. So therefore, if the entire intent is that two NSAs are really going to talk at each other rather than talk to each other, then please be my guest, because till now, Mr. Chari or anybody from the government has not been able to point out what is it that they expect out of these talks.
Let Mr. Chari answer. Mr. Chari, let me, for the sake of the audience, repeat the critical point, because there were so many points there that the critical one may have been missed. And the critical point is this: when tensions are so sharp, when the attitude is so polarized between the two, your two NSAs will talk at each other rather than to, as a result of which, rather than sort out problems, they may actually make the problem worse. This may be a case of holding talks at the wrong time and not sorting out things, but exacerbating them.
No, I don't think it's holding talks at the wrong time. I think the holding talks at the right time, because our NSA and our government, the Prime Minister and the establishment here, has very categorically told Pakistan that we want to talk to you, we want to talk to you about development, we want to talk to you about everything else, including Kashmir, as far as Islamabad and Delhi are talking. But if you want to set your own agenda, we can meet that agenda at your level, at whatever level that you are telling us. One. Two, the NSA has very clearly warned, probably this is the first time in the last 75-80 years that the National Security Advisor of India has told Pakistan that another 26/11 and you lose Baluchistan. In spite of this, if the NSA of Pakistan comes,
I need to stop you there.
If they are coming to talk to us,
I must stop you there, because you are a member of the. No, I'm stopping you on purpose. No, Mr. Chari, this is far too important to be glossed over. You're a member of the BJP National Executive. You speak with a lot of authority and responsibility. What does it mean, the Indian NSA telling Pakistan another 26/11 and you will lose Baluchistan? Yes. Are you accepting that we are involved in some sort of activity in Baluchistan against Pakistan's integrity?
We don't have to get involved with it.
So how do they lose Baluchistan?
Northwest, if you look at the Pakistan's internal situation, it's in a serious situation.
No, hang on. How can our NSA make that claim?
Yes,
is he involved in Baluchistan?
No, there is problem in Sindh, there is problem in Baluchistan.
No, that's an internal issue. That's an internal issue.
There is problem in POK.
How is our NSA using that as a lever?
No, it is Pakistan which has been telling us. Pakistan which has been.
No, you said our NSA told them you will lose Baluchistan.
We made a mistake in Sharm el-Sheikh.
No, just a moment, Mr. Chari.
What we are trying to tell Pakistan.
I'm really picking you up on something that's critical. Have you made a mistake in saying this claim?
I have not made a mistake. I am only repeating what the government of India, what the External Affairs Ministry and what the NSA has really told. That
when
Pakistan,
did he say this? Because this is news to me. This is news to me. When did our NSA tell Pakistan another 26/11 and you will lose Baluchistan?
I'll give you the details. But what is important?
Because I don't think we have the leverage officially to separate Baluchistan. You're claiming we do.
No, it's not the question of leverage. We have leverage for so many other things also, and Pakistan has realized all these things.
You are saying things that the Pakistanis will use against us.
What is important, Karan, stick to the topic. What is important is Pakistan has realized the fact that they are dealing with a different New Delhi.
Let's bring in Manish Tiwari. Manish Tiwari, you've heard this exchange between Mr. Chari and me. In particular, I picked up on his claim that the Indian NSA has told Pakistan, as he said, for the first time in 70 years, another 26/11 and you will lose Baluchistan. And the issue now is this. Do you accept that that suggests a stronger Indian hand, and therefore an Indian hand that is quite capable of conducting adequate talks at this point when there are serious tensions on the border? And secondly, do you believe that in saying this, Mr. Chari has suggested we have a lever in Baluchistan, which I at least am not aware of, and as a result we can use that lever to prize it away from the rest of Pakistan, which is what Mr. Chari has suggested our NSA claimed?
Well, I think Mr. Chari should either withdraw the statement, or the National Security Advisor will have to explain that statement in great detail. Because if I take you back to Sharm el-Sheikh and that joint statement, and I had the occasion of reading it, the joint statement said that the Prime Minister of Pakistan expressed some concerns with regard to Baluchistan. They did not even talk about India interfering in Baluchistan, and at that point in time, the government had taken a stand that we are perfectly prepared to talk about Baluchistan for the simple reason that we are not interfering into either your sovereignty or territorial integrity. In fact, Pakistan has more to lose by putting Baluchistan on the table, because then all the atrocities which they have committed, including the killing of Bukti, the disappearances of thousands of people in Baluchistan, would get an airing in the antiseptic environment of global public opinion. So therefore, to even suggest that we are taking a leaf out of Pakistan's book and interfering in any manner in Baluchistan undermines India's case. Either Mr. Chari misunderstood what the NSA apparently conveyed to his interlocutor in Pakistan, or if he did, then I think the National Security Advisor of India has a very serious case to explain.
Let's leave the Baluchistan issue aside. Let's leave that aside.
I'll explain this to Mr. Manish Tiwari. Manish, you should remember one thing: what the mistakes that the former UPA government did, as far as Sharma Sheikh is concerned, I am not repeating it, but I am not going into the details of these things. But what is important is, I think Pakistan has more than amply realized that they are dealing with a new set of people in New Delhi, and therefore we know what the agenda is going to be.
All right, let me put the opposite to you. It was a point made on this program just about 10 days. I'll come to you in a moment's time, Manish Tiwari. I'll come to you in a moment's time. I'll come to you in a moment's time, Manish Tiwari. I want to put the opposite to you. You're claiming that we have a stronger, tougher government symbolized by the strong, tough, assertive leadership of Mr. Modi. Pakistan has realized it, and therefore the geopolitics between the two countries has changed. Therefore, these talks are the right talks at the right time. Let me put the opposite to you. It was a point made by M.K. Narayanan on this very program just about 10 or 11 days ago. And he said what people don't appreciate is that actually in the last 8-9 months, Pakistan's position internationally has grown considerably stronger. It is not the weak country that we thought it to be a year ago. And he cited 3 reasons. Number one, China's relationship with Pakistan and the commitment of $46 billion in aid, which has strengthened Pakistan enormously. Secondly, a vastly improved relationship with America, not just because America now depends on Pakistan to get its troops and its equipment out of Afghanistan, which increases American dependence, but also because of the visits that have happened to Washington. And finally, the situation in Saudi Arabia as a result of the fact that America has a nuclear deal with Iran, which has strengthened the Saudi dependence on Pakistan and thus also again strengthened Pakistan. For all those reasons, Pakistan is a stronger country. Secondly, the civil-military relationship has changed. Nawaz is no longer buckling under pressure the way you claim.
In fact, he is reinforcing what I am saying. If the political establishment in Islamabad is not buckling under the army pressure, it is all the more reason why we are talking to the political establishment. NSA is part of the political establishment. The Prime Minister of Pakistan is part of the political establishment, and we want the political establishment to be strengthened there, the democratic process to be strengthened there. And in that process, if there is a problem between the army and the Pakistani political establishment, it is their problem. They have to sort it out.
Manish Tiwari, let me come back to an issue that is at the top of the mind of the Indian people when they hear you, when they hear RPN Singh, when they hear your party formally at his press conferences saying, cancel the talks, don't go ahead. To many, it seems, this is another example of Congress tit-for-tat revenge. You held up the whole of the monsoon session over GST and Dalit Gate because the BJP had done that to you in 2010, 2011, and you got your revenge. And now you're doing the same thing over NSA talks because that's what the BJP did in your time, the Salman Khurshid case being one example out of many. Is this just a case of petty politics and petty point scoring instead of a matter of raising substantive issues?
Karan, before I address the political question, let me address the strategic question. To the list of things that you enumerated that allegedly strengthened Pakistan, you possibly forgot to add the fact that Russia, which was India's strongest strategic ally, the Prime Minister in the last 15 months has not found time to visit Russia, and Russia has also been extremely ambivalent, and now they are talking about selling arms to Pakistan. Number two, the dependence of the United States on the Pakistani army to midwife the entire Afghanistan process, the talks which are being midwifed by the Chinese and the Pakistani intelligence between the Afghan government and the Taliban, in fact strengthen the hand of the Pakistani military establishment and not the Pakistani civilian government. And number two, to your question about the politics of it, I'm afraid I would need to reject it for the simple reason that every situation has to be evaluated in their own facts and circumstances. If the BJP wiped out the November session in 2010 of Parliament, they possibly did it on the basis of the facts and circumstances which were prevailing then. The issues which the Congress raised in the recently concluded monsoon session was based on germane material as to what has had happened between the
I'm going to stop you there because this is not about the monsoon session. You made the defense, but I don't think we need more details because it takes up time when we're talking instead about NSA talks. I want to put to you something. This is meant to be a series of talks that take place specifically about terror. At the moment, India is determined to raise the Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi case. What are you going to do when Pakistan turns around and says two things? Number one, Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi was given bail by the judicial system. The Pakistani executive cannot interfere, just as our executive can't interfere. Secondly, when they point out that Swami Asimanand has been given bail and India did not appeal against that bail. And thirdly, when they point out that you're complaining about the 7 years it's taken for the 2611 case in Pakistan, what about the 8 years and more that it's taken for Samjhauta? I put it to you, on this issue of Zakiur Rahman versus Swami Asimanand, Samjhauta versus 2611, the arguments they make against us are no better and no worse than the ones we are making against them. This is a tit for tat and no one's going to win.
No, Pakistan knows it very well. We have given them ample proof. I mean, this may gladden Mr. Tiwari very much that in the last 10 years of UPA government also, they have done quite a good amount of homework, except one or two mistakes that their former Home Minister made of sending lists of people.
You're avoiding my point.
Otherwise,
my point is that the treatment of Zakiur Rahman and 2611 is the same as Swami Asimanand and Samjhauta.
No, the kind of proof that we have given them are very good, very strong and fit for a case. But whereas,
what about the fact that when Swami Asimanand got bail, your government deliberately chose not to contest? In Pakistan, when Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi got bail, they are contesting. They are going all the way to the Supreme Court.
What is the FIR? These cases are not to be related. These cases are not to be not put on equal footing. The Pakistan may put it on equal footing.
Obviously, they lost people in Samjhauta.
We are investigating our case. We are investigating, and our investigating agencies in the last 10 years have not found any proof against Swami Asimananda.
Let me put this to you, because we've only got a minute and a half, and I'm putting a question not as a counterpoint to what Mr. Chari said, but actually in a very different spirit. When Pakistan, as inevitably Pakistan will, brings up India's alleged involvement in Baluchistan, and unfortunately Mr. Chari's comments earlier on this evening may well strengthen their ability to do so. When they bring up India's alleged involvement in Karachi and Fatah, and perhaps even, as they're now claiming, India's involvement in the December bomb in Peshawar when about 140 children got killed, what do you think should be the government's response, Manish Tiwari? I'm asking you not to speak as an opposition, but as an Indian who wants India's best foot put forward.
Well, Karan, the answer to that is very simple. Insofar as Lakhvi is concerned, even before the ink had dried on the UFA process, the chief prosecutor in Pakistan got up and said, we will not ask for the voice samples of Lakhvi because there is no provision in law. So I do not know as to what material are they going to provide on Lakhvi, especially when he's out on bail. And if Pakistan in fact asks those questions of the government of India, I do believe that the government of India must be ready to give a cogent answer which is supported by facts and material, that what they say with regard to Samjhauta Express actually stands up in a court of law, because what I'm hearing is completely to the contrary, that the 70 witnesses who have deposed in that matter have done so very effectively, and the needle of suspicion very, very squarely points at the suspects who have been named in the FIR.
One of whom presumably are also suggesting by implication has been given bail, and that bail has not been contested, and the government will have to therefore explain to the Pakistanis why, in the light of the evidence you just cited, this gentleman's bail was not contested. But let's leave it there. We've reached a point where actually right at the end, despite the contestation earlier, the two of you are in agreement that India must put forward its best foot, particularly when Pakistan accuses us of double standards on issues like samjhauta on issues like Karachi and allegedly Baluchistan. My
sure
thanks
India
to
is
both
going
of
to
you.
do that.
My thanks to both of you for coming to studio. Time for a break, but then the parliamentary election results from Sri Lanka, what do they mean for India?